Today we're going to talk about team building and how you can get the perfect team in Pokemon Legends Arceus. Let's get started. Hello everybody, Blaine here for Bridge 4 Games. Yeah, today we're talking about a very important topic for Pokemon Legends Arceus, and that is how you can make the perfect team when the games do come out. Now, a lot of people in these games don't really care about typings or anything like that. They just want to go have a good time, use their favorite mons, and that's okay. But in Pokemon Legends Arceus, there are a lot of reasons you actually want to put a lot of thought into your team and really kind of craft out the best possible team you can. Not only is this game going to be a lot harder than some of the games we've seen before, but on top of that, all of the starters with their new Hisuian forms have 5 weaknesses or more each. That's crazy because it means that there's going to be a lot of moves that are super effective against them, and you really need to be careful when you're actually designing your team to make sure that you don't just get wiped out by some random Pokemon that you're not covered for. So today we're going to go over all the starters, their typings, and kind of figure out what Pokemon would be the best to actually supplement those Pokemon to help you get the best overall team in Pokemon Legends Arceus. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and just dive right in, but before I do, I just want to take a second to ask that if you like the videos we have here on the channel, please make sure that you actually like them by hitting the thumbs up button, and of course consider subscribing to the channel to become part of our amazing Pokemon community to make sure that you never miss any of the awesome videos like this one. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at our first starter, and that is going to be Decidueye. Alright, so let's kick things off with Rowlet, who is going to turn into Decidueye. Now, back in Alola, Decidueye was Grass and Ghost, which meant it had a bunch of weaknesses, and that's going to be the case here as well. So in the Hisui region, Decidueye is most likely going to be a Grass and Fighting type, which means it's going to be weak to Poison, Fire, Psychic, Ice, Fairy, and also having a 4 times weakness against Flying. Now, all these types are actually really common in most Pokemon playthroughs, so it's going to take a lot of careful planning to actually make sure that Decidueye can last late into the game. So what can we do to help it out a little bit? Well, let's start by dealing with that massive flying weakness. In order to really cover that really problematic weakness, which is really common, I think we need to have a Pokemon that can do super effective damage to flying types and also resist their attacks as well. After a lot of thinking and planning, I decided that Magnezone is probably the best Pokemon to fill this slot. Magnezone 4 times resists flying thanks to it being electric and steel, and on top of that it can do massive super effective damage to flying Pokemon thanks to its really high special attack stat and its electric typing. Now on top of that, as a grass Pokemon, Decidueye can switch in and take those ground type hits from Magnezone to make sure that it won't be KO'd. Now Magnezone also has one other benefit as well. Now Decidueye, as we mentioned, is also very weak to both Fairy and Ice. Magnezone with its incredible steel type attacks is able to check both of those as well. And if that wasn't amazing enough, Magnezone is also immune to poison and resists Psychic. But now that we have the good news, there's some bad news as well. The fact that we're using Magnezone makes us very vulnerable to fire at this point, so we kinda need to look at a water Pokemon next. Now again, I went back to the drawing board here and I concluded that the best Pokemon to go with the 2 we already have is gonna be Gyarados. Now Gyarados is an amazing Pokemon because it's very offensively designed, and it also is able to be found pretty much everywhere thanks to Magikarp appearing pretty much everywhere in every body of water in the entire game. Now Gyarados is not perfect, but it does have some things going for it. So first of all, Magnezone can take any of the electric and rock type attacks which may check Gyarados. And Gyarados is also a flying type, which is going to be a really nice switch in if Magnezone is facing down some ground type Pokemon. On top of that, Gyarados is of course a water type Pokemon, which will check any of the fire type Pokemon that threaten the 2 other Pokemon on the team. Gyarados is also just a generally good Pokemon because it can learn a lot of coverage moves and also can have access to moves like Dragon Dance. Alright, now that we have Decidueye, Magnezone, and Gyarados, I think it's time that we take a second and talk about cores. Now, cores are combinations of types on any given team, which can really help to check a lot of the problems that the team may face. Now, one very common core type is going to be Fire, Water, and Grass. Another is Psychic, Dark, and Fighting. And one of the third most common ones is going to be Fairy, Steel, and Dragon. Now, if we look at our team currently, we already have a Grass and Water type Pokemon, so let's go ahead and see if we can add a Fire type Pokemon to the list. Now, we all know the Sinnoh region is pretty scarce when it comes to Fire type Pokemon. And even though the Hisui region has quite a bit more fire type Pokemon, it's still not perfect. So originally I decided to go with Infernape, but I didn't really want to double up on the flying weakness, nor the ground weakness, because I thought it might get out of hand. So instead I opted to go for Magmortar. Decidueye is most likely going to be a physically oriented Pokemon, and Magnezone is a specially oriented Pokemon. I decided it'd be a good idea to have another special attacker on the team, and Magmortar certainly fits that bill. On top of being a very powerful fire type Pokemon, it has a myriad of coverage moves that make it a very powerful asset to any team. So now that we have Magmortar, we have our Fire, Water, Grass core pretty well locked up. So what other cores can we put together here? Well, unfortunately, there's not really a lot of Dragon-type Pokemon in the region. The only real options are the legendary Pokemon and Hisui and Goodra. Now, that being said, Hisui and Goodra is probably going to be a Pokemon you're going to find very late in the game, so I'm really not going to be including that one here. What I am very much interested in, though, is some very solid, just general good attackers. I'm interested in Pokemon that can do a ton of damage, can outspeed other Pokemon, and can take some hits without being KO'd. Even though for the moment we're going to have to set aside the Fairy, Steel, and Dragon core, the other Fighting, Dark, Psychic core we can still make pretty easily. And with that in mind, I decided that another Pokemon that would be great on this team is Alakazam. Alakazam is one of the fastest Pokemon in the games and has a very, very high special attack stat. It also gets a lot of coverage moves and has setup moves like Nasty Plot. Now, admittedly, Alakazam doesn't really help out all the Pokemon we have so far that much, but all the Pokemon that we have already help out Alakazam a ton. Keep in mind that Alakazam really struggles with Bug-type attacks as well as Dark-type attacks. Both of those are handled very easily by Magmortar and Decidueye. On top of that, Alakazam is also able to switch in and take some of those Psychic-type moves that may check Decidueye. Honestly, Alakazam is just an all-around amazing Pokemon and it really deserves to be on this team. Now, that left me with the task of finding a Dark-type Pokemon, and honestly, there's a lot of decent Dark-type Pokemon in the region, so really I kinda had to decide which one I was most interested in. After a while, I came to the conclusion that the best bet is going to be Umbreon. Now, I looked at a lot of Dark-type Pokemon like Honchkrow and Drapion, and honestly, what really sold me on Umbreon was the fact that it's so defensively oriented. If you look at the team that we have so far, we very much focused on offense, and we really don't have a tank to just take a lot of hits and then heal back up. Umbreon can do this no problem. And it also gets moves that let it whittle away at a Pokemon rather than just dealing a really big blow to it. Umbreon is also really great because it can switch into pretty much anything that we're going to encounter and still take it really, really well. Honestly, it may not be the perfect Pokemon to just solve every problem this team is going to face, but it really rounds off the team very nicely and gives it a lot of options. Not only does this team now have 2 separate cores, it can check pretty much every single typing without any real issues. Alright, now let's move on to Samurott. Now, Samurott has always been based on a samurai, but now it's going to be based on more of a cursed samurai, and it's going to be Water Dark in the Hisui region. Now, like Decidueye's grass fighting typing, Water Dark also carries with it a lot of weaknesses. Our new Samurott's going to be weak to fighting, grass, electric, fairy, and bug. Now that being said, a lot of those types are pretty common in the region, so we really need to make sure that we're covering Samurott really well. Now, dealing with electric is going to be something we're going to have to handle in a little bit. So for now, let's address the fighting, grass, and bug weaknesses. Again, I really thought about this for a long time, and I only really came up with one great solution. I feel that Samurott pairs up amazingly with Togekiss. Now, Togekiss is flying and fairy type, meaning that its attacks are super effective against grass and bug, and that it also resists grass and bug as well. And on top of that, it also is 4 times resistant to fighting. So if you run into any physical fighting Pokemon that want to do a ton of damage, send out Togekiss and they're not going to be able to do anything. Now, unfortunately, this does open the door to electric being a bit of a problem, and it also requires an answer for poison and steel in the case of Togekiss. We're also going to need an answer for any fairies that may show up as well. We'll take care of those in a little bit. For right now, let's work on finishing this core we have going here. Samurott is a dark type, and obviously we know that that likes to pair with fighting and psychic type Pokemon. So what if we can get both of those in one Pokemon? Well, it turns out that you can, and that's why I think Gallade is an amazing option for this team as well. Now, Gallade, again, is psychic and fighting. This means that it has super effective moves against both the types that check Togekiss, both Steel and Poison, and it's also able to do super effective damage against fighting types. And on top of that, Gallade just happens to be a very excellent Pokemon for shiny hunting. So if you're looking for Pokemon that can False Swipe and use a bunch of status moves, it can do all of those while also providing very strong attacks. Now that we're looking at the team, I really want to make sure we have some kind of answers for Fairy-type Pokemon. I also want to start working on getting that Fire, Water, Grass core completed, just so we're covered against anything we may encounter. I looked pretty deep into the Pokedex for the Hisui region, and ultimately I decided that Roserade was a good choice for this team. Now, as a Grass and Poison-type Pokemon, Roserade is able to use those Poison-type attacks to check any Fairy that may show up. And on top of that, being a grass type, it's able to handle some of the bulky water types that may show up, and it's also able to check any random grass Pokemon that may show up as well. With its high special attack and other decent stats, it really is a very valuable asset to the team, especially because it can do a variety of different things. But now we gotta take a step back and really start to address a couple of the issues that have cropped up with the team. So one thing I was really worried about is that Gallade and Roserade are both weak to flying. Now flying is a really common type and there's just a ton of birds in pretty much every region. We also still have that electric weakness, which we haven't really answered yet. Now, normally when I see a glaring electric type weakness, I would normally suggest something with Lightning Rod like Raichu. However, there has been some rumors going around that abilities are not in the game, and currently we don't have any reason to not believe that that's true. So my best bet for dealing with an electric type Pokemon is to use a ground type Pokemon. And if we can also use that ground type Pokemon to check all those flying type Pokemon, even better. So who's my pick for the 5th Pokemon of this team? Well, I recommend Mamoswine. Mamoswine is a very offensive Pokemon with a very high attack stat. It's ground and ice type, which gives it a lot of utility on this team. The ground type is going to make it immune to electric, which we very much need, and it has access to some extremely powerful ice type moves, which will be an absolute nightmare for flying Pokemon as well as grass type Pokemon. With Mamoswine on the team, this team is able to handle a lot more threats than it could otherwise, so I think it's a definite auto-include on the team. Now that brings us to our last slot on the team, and really I was kind of puzzled with what I wanted to put here. Rather than try to address any remaining problem, I really wanted to fill out that Fire, Water, Grass core. So ultimately I decided to use Flareon for that slot. Now I know, we're using evolutions a lot here, but again, part of the strength of Eevee is that it can really become anything you need. Flareon may be one of the least popular evolutions, but I really think it's pretty good here. It has a very high physical attack stat, which really lets it do a lot of damage with some of those fire type attacks. It also has a lot of options for utility moves from its base form, Eevee. One of the reasons I really love Flareon is because its attack stat is so high and fire is such a good type. It really doesn't matter that it's not going to be doing super effective against a lot of things. The fact that it's as powerful as it is really makes it earn its spot on the team. And speaking of fire type Pokemon, that's going to take us into Typhlosion. Now, like the other two, Typhlosion has a brand new typing in this game as well, and this time around it's Fire and Ghost. Now listen, Fire and Ghost is an awesome type combination because it checks a lot of things, and it's extremely offensive. That being said, on the defensive side, it does have 5 weaknesses like the other 2 starters do. Now, Typhlosion has always been weak to ground, rock, and water, but thanks to its brand new typing, it's also weak to ghost and dark. But don't worry, I think I have a pretty good solution for how to fix those weaknesses. Now, the most obvious thing that we need to address is the water type Pokemon that are going to be in the region. Every region always has an abundance of water and has a ton of water Pokemon within it. It's one of the reasons that water is one of the more common types in the game. With that in mind, we really need to come up with a really good answer here to help out Typhlosion a lot. The solution I came up with was Tangrowth. Now, Tangrowth does a lot of very interesting things when it pairs up with Typhlosion. The real strength of Tangrowth is its versatility. Tangrowth has decent offensive stats as well as a decent amount of natural bulk. Tangrowth can function as both a special attacker or a physical attacker, and can even use a bunch of utility moves. It can attack with powerful Vine Whips or Giga Drains, or it can even go ahead and drop some Sleep Powder and make your opponents fall asleep for a while. Long story short, Tangrowth is going to eat up all of those water type attacks, which are going to be a really bad day for Typhlosion. On top of that, Tangrowth's grass typing resists ground type attacks as well. Now, while we're here, let's go ahead and finish off the Fire, Water, Grass core, and let's also try to address that rock weakness while we're at it. Now, I'm not going to lie, for this one I really had to dig deep. Frankly, there's a lot of issues on the team right now, and I really had to come up with kind of a creative solution to solve the problems. But thanks to Legends Arceus having the original Sinnoh starters, I was able to find an answer. The third member of this team is going to be Empoleon. Empoleon, being a water type Pokemon, is going to be awesome on this team. Not only does it finish off our Fire, Water, Grass core, it also can wall some of the water type Pokemon that are going to cause a problem for Typhlosion, and can also check the ground and rock type Pokemon that are going to be an issue. On top of that though, because of its steel typing, it is a resist for rock type attacks as well. What I really love too is that it synergizes so well with Tangrowth, because Empoleon is also weak to ground, meaning that Tangrowth can help cover that issue for Empoleon as well. But that's not all. Because of Empoleon's incredible typing, it resists normal, flying, rock, bug, steel, water, psychic, ice, dragon, and fairy. It literally just covers pretty much everything you can imagine. Because the fact it pairs so well with what we have already, and because of all these incredible resistances, I think Empoleon is going to be an absolute monster on this team. Alright, now again, we have a lot of weaknesses that we still have to cover. Typhlosion still has some issues with some dark type Pokemon, Tangrowth has some issues with some bugs as well as some flyers, and Empoleon really doesn't like dealing with fighting type Pokemon. So what can we do? Well, I hate to use repeats, but I really feel like Togekiss is going to be amazing here as well. Now, the moral of the story may end up just being that Togekiss is so amazing that you should use it on whatever team you have, and honestly, that's probably okay. Again, because of its amazing flying and fairy typing, it's able to handle dark Pokemon, fighting Pokemon, and bug type Pokemon. It's just incredible. It really solves a lot of the problems that we have here. And on top of that, again, Togekiss is weak to steel and poison. Empoleon resists or is immune to both of these. Empoleon resists steel and is immune to poison. It literally is just the perfect Pokemon on this team. Now, one thing I did notice at this point is that we're pretty far away from a dark, psychic, and fighting type core. And on top of that, everything we have so far is most likely going to be a special attacker. So I think it's time we bring some heavy offensive physical attackers onto the team. Now again, I said I hate repeats and that's true, but I honestly think that for the 5th member of this team, Gallade is an amazing choice. Now we already talked about why it's an amazing shiny hunting Pokemon, but just to summarize again, it has False Swipe and several ways to status Pokemon. In addition, it has a very high attack stat, meaning that the False Swipes are actually going to deal real damage. But right now we're looking at just it being an offensive Pokemon that has access to Psychic and Fighting type stabs. Now, one thing I was worried about was the possibility of other ghost Pokemon causing problems for this team. Now, one Pokemon I was worried about in particular was Gengar. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if Gengar makes an appearance as an enemy you have to face in the game, because it's such an iconic Pokemon. Gallade is able to handle it with spades thanks to its amazing psychic type attacks. Now, even though Ghost is super effective against Gallade, Gallade should have no problem taking the hit and then retaliating back and knocking out the Gengar. Again, it's also just another really good answer if a bulky Steel-type Pokemon shows up, or if you just happen to run into something like a bulky Water-type Pokemon you can't really deal with right away, Gallade can just power through it thanks to its amazing physical attack stat. But that kind of got me thinking. Again, on this team we don't really have any great answers for flying, and we do currently have 2 Pokemon that are weak to it. On top of that, I would also like another better answer to Ghost Pokemon, as well as some really fast Psychic Pokemon that could show up. So in keeping with this idea, I'm rounding off the team with Weavile. Now, Weavile, of course, is a very fast and very offensive Dark and Ice-type Pokemon. Now, it has access to a myriad of incredible moves, but does have those incredible Dark and Ice stabs. Now, Dark is going to allow you to knock any Ghost out pretty much right away, and on top of that, the Ice-type attacks are going to knock out any bulky flyers that you may encounter, and will definitely help protect that Tangrowth and Gallade. I also really like having a Dark-type Pokemon on the team, simply because if you encounter a Pokemon that's spamming big Psychic moves and is really fast, you're able to switch it in and just completely negate those attacks. And oh boy, if Weavile somehow gets the most recent Ice-type attack, Triple Axle, it is going to become even more of a monster. With Weavile, that attack does so much damage that it is just ridiculous. So there you have it, these are my 3 mock teams for Pokemon Legends Arceus. If you guys have any suggestions for anything I could have done differently, please let me know down in the comments. But when the games do come out, feel free to try them out and let me know how they do. I hope you're able to put together one of these teams and smash through a whole bunch of trainers as you work your way to the final boss of the games, Arceus. So there you have it, everybody. Those are my sample teams for the Pokemon Legends Arceus starters. Again, this was really meant to be more of a guide than a specific template for you to follow. Really, we just want to help you guys come up with solutions for all the problems that the starter Pokemon are going to face, because with the amount of weaknesses they have, there's going to be a lot. So that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, but most importantly, I hope you found it informative, and you're able to use all the information we had in this video to build the best possible team for your playthrough of Pokemon Legends Arceus. So that being said, again, if you do have any ideas for how I can make these teams even better, or if you have any suggestions that you think may work better than what I had so far, please let me know down in the comments. That being said, everybody, I've been Blaine from Bridge4Games. Thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me. Again, if you did like the video, please make sure that you absolutely Giga Impact that like button in the face, and of course consider subscribing to the channel to become part of our amazing Pokemon community to make sure that you never miss any of our awesome videos like this one. That being said, everybody, please remember that the best Pokemon games are the ones that you love to play, and the proper ways to play them are however you have the most fun. I hope each and every one of you have a happy, epic, awesome, and amazing day, and I will see you in the next video. See you around. Bye-bye.